I always things wrong when you don't want them to. We've got a lot of material to cover tonight. Hopefully we get to all your questions or cover it thoroughly enough that you don't have questions. Wouldn't that be great? We all just walk away completely understanding the information. So I'm gonna post a couple things in the comments before we get started. You're gonna see me look down at my computer screen. Don't mind my funny, thinking very hard faces. Okay, so some of the things that we talked about today, you're going to find links for in the comment section there. So first off, to let you know, I am not a medical doctor. I am a nutritional consultant. I'm trained in classical naturopathy. So you shouldn't take any of this advice, anything that we talk about today, in lieu of medical advice. Always check with your doctor if you're worried about something. So by watching this video and following anything that I've suggested in here, you are releasing me from personal liability. You're taking responsibility for your own health, which I encourage all of my clients, family, friends, everyone to do. Take responsibility for yourself. So just a couple of thoughts on natural health. First, according to the World Health Organization, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So it's the whole body, not just making sure that you're sleeping well and feeling good and having energy. It's everything: mind, body, soul, and spirit. So a traditional natural health practitioner, we don't need to diagnose you. We don't need to treat your disease. So when people come in and tell me, I've got this, this, and this, it's like, I don't need to know what your health labels are. We're concerned about treating the body as a whole. We believe that the body has a way of healing itself when you give it what it needs. So, a traditional naturopath also isn't going to resort to surgery, drugs, or any invasive techniques. There are a few cases in which surgery might be necessary for someone, but those are actually a lot more few than you would imagine. So in the comments links today, I did post a list of supplements. We are going to talk about a couple of supplements today, but most of what we're going to talk about you can do on your own without supplements. However, I would like to mention, while we're talking about supplements, is that herbs are a food. So when people ask me, is this herb safe to take? Can I take too much of it? That's like asking me, is spinach safe to eat? I'm like, it's a food. So the foods that we eat, that is what our body uses to build its cells, to provide the information. We eat the food, the information goes to our brain. So how we're feeling and thinking throughout the day is going to be reflected on what we ate. So if you haven't, been putting good foods into your body, you shouldn't expect your body to work properly. And then one note on supplements before we go further is when I'm working with my clients, I use Nature's Sunshine products nearly exclusively. They perform over 600 quality tests on all of their supplements, so you can really be sure that they're going to work. They're not going to contain any pollutants, pesticides, chemicals, heavy metals, and they're only going to contain the nutrients that are naturally found in that herb or plant. So, one example of their quality that really impressed me was that Karen said, hi Karen. We are here live on Facebook, and this is my first Facebook Live class, so we'll see how it goes. So one example of Nature's Sunshine quality is Levin Peas is a protein shake of theirs. It's delicious, probably one of their best-selling shakes. It's been unavailable for a couple of months, and that is because one of the ingredients out of 20 or 30 that are in this shake did not contain the minimum amount of vitamin C that they require it to have. So so it hasn't been available for a couple of months, but that just shows how great their quality is. If you don't have a Nature's Sunshine account, you can start one really easily. So all of the links that I posted to the herbs and supplements in the comments, those are affiliate links. So that means if you create an account using one of those links, it's going to go underneath me. I'll show up as your sponsor, and that just gives me a little bit of kickback for teaching these classes and videos. A free membership lasts a year. It requires a $40 member pricing purchase, but then you're going to save up to 33% off of the retail price of those products for a calendar year. So we both win that way. Also, if you had a friend who referred you to this class, and they are a Nature's Sunshine member, please purchase any of your products underneath them. If you want to double check to see if they do have an account, you don't know their member number, when you're going through checkout is when you put in your sponsor number, and you can do a little search feature there to check to see if they have an account. Hi Kimberly, thanks for joining us tonight. I expect some feedback afterwards. She's a colleague, so okay, so getting into the details. So when working with my consulting clients, I have two main systems that I work on first. No matter what their problem is, we're going to focus on the digestive system and the intestinal system first. So these two body systems are the foundation of our health. No matter what your health is, you want to be sure that these two systems are working right first. Otherwise, your other efforts are going to be much more difficult. So thinking about supplements, there are some people, you go to their house, you open up their medicine cabinet, and they've got a whole shelf full of supplements. The more that your digestive and intestinal system is struggling, the more supplements you're going to need. So if you find yourself popping like 20 pills a day, twice a day, you probably need to work on these two areas, and then what you're taking is going to be much more effective. Today we're actually going to be talking about hiatal hernias. These are a hidden cause of chronic ill health. So there's a couple of the natural paths that I researched to find out this information today. Estimated just through their personal experience that about 90% or more of their clients who had chronic illnesses had a hiatal hernia. So we're going to talk about what it is. We're not diagnosing anything today. We're not saying that you have one just because you went through this and you're like, oh wow, I feel what she's talking about. We're not diagnosing, we're just directing you to an area of your body that may need more help and support. So, I want you all to take a deep breath. All right, see, I already did it incorrectly. But if you have a problem where you're not really able to take a deep breath, that can be one big indicator that you have a hiatal hernia or just too much tension in this area. So when I started working on mine, I don't know if I had a full hiatal hernia or just some tension there, but it felt like I had a belt that was really tight right underneath my chest. I noticed it when I was running, when I was singing. It was really hard to take a deep, full breath, and sometimes I just felt like I couldn't catch up. So then I started working on it, and now I actually much more often, much more naturally breathe through my abdomen, as we all should. So what is a hiatal hernia? So our esophagus, where when we swallow, the food goes down through an opening in our diaphragm called the hiatus. And that's right underneath, that's where the esophagus connects to the stomach. So the stomach is actually supposed to lie in the abdominal cavity right below the diaphragm. But when somebody has a hiatal hernia, the diaphragm can actually, the stomach itself actually will get stuck and protrude up a little bit above and through the diaphragm in that opening. So the stomach's supposed to sit below it, but then it gets stuck in that opening. So when we're normally breathing, we should be able to take a deep breath, and our abdomen goes out, and then when we exhale, the abdomen goes in. So if you all want to, I'll be standing up and sitting down while I demonstrate a few things, but if you want to put a hand on your chest and a hand on your stomach, take a deep breath in and out. Which hand moved? So that's where, if you find that your chest hand's going out or your shoulders are going up and this abdominal hand doesn't move at all, that at least lets us know that we've got some tension there in this area, which this area is called our solar plexus. It's the energy center of our bodies. There's a lot of nerves that radiate out from there, talking to different parts of our body. So tension there can actually cause a lot of problems. So now that you just took a normal deep breath, found out which hand moved, what if you try to breathe through your abdomen? If you take a deep abdominal breath, if you're a chest breather, try taking a deep abdominal breath. Are you able to? So some people with this tension or with a hiatal hernia, they're going to have a really hard time taking a deep abdominal breath. So you might be able to do it if you really focus on it, but it should not be that difficult. So even if it's not a full-blown hiatal hernia, too much tension there can really interfere with your digestion. So, and remember, I did say that the digestive and the intestinal systems are the first two systems that I work on with any client of mine. We really need those functioning in order for the body to work. So, what are some problems this hiatal hernia can cause? First off, shallow breathing. If we're not taking deep enough breaths, then that's going to contribute to too much acidity in the body. Anytime we've got too much acidity, that's going to lead to pain and inflammation. And the lungs are actually our first line of buffering the pH in our body. So if we're not taking nice deep breaths, then we're also going to have a lack of oxygen to the tissues. So, and then this pH imbalance, the body becomes a breeding ground for bacteria, parasites, even cancer cells. So we want to make sure that we're able to take deep abdominal breaths, we get enough oxygen. All of our cells need oxygen in order to create energy. So if you're someone that traditionally has lower energy, you might not be taking deep enough breaths. That shallow breathing also strains the digestive system. So it's very stressful for the nerves of the stomach, and it's going to reduce the secretion of stomach acid and enzymes. So we're not breaking down our food, and we're not absorbing our minerals. Here's a little secret most people don't know, is that in cases of heartburn or indigestion, about 80% of those cases is a result of an under-acidic stomach. We're like, wait, isn't that acid coming up my throat? Yes, it is. But the actual cause of that is an under-acidic stomach. So when we start taking these acid reducers, we're actually making the problem worse by further reducing this low acid in our stomach. And our stomach needs to be a very high acidic environment. It's where proteins are digested, and undigested proteins are a major cause of inflammation in the body. So that's why people with this problem might often look, they might be overly thin, they might look sickly, they might be pale, but they're going to have really low muscle tone because they're not digesting their proteins correctly. So a younger person with this issue is going to be kind of your thinner, leaner, overly thin person, and then that older person is going to be more overweight and lack muscle tone. So another issue of that tension there is that the top of our stomach has a sphincter, which is supposed to close. We swallow food, the food goes down, it closes to prevent the acid from coming back up. But that tension there is going to irritate it and cause it to be open more. So the stomach might not be closing properly. So especially if you have chronic acid reflux, I would really encourage you to do some of these exercises we're going to talk about, because even if it's not a full-blown hernia there, it's too much tension. So other things that can happen with a hiatal hernia, that stomach being too high can actually put pressure on your heart and cause an abnormal heart rhythm. Are you someone, when you take your pulse, it's really high and a rapid heart rate? That can actually be caused by the hernia putting pressure on the heart. Some naturopaths actually estimate that up to 50% of heart attacks are caused by this gas and bloating that is caused there and the pressure of the hiatal hernia. So do your heart a favor and let's do some work on this. A couple more problems. If the stomach is too high because it's up where it shouldn't be, that actually is going to shorten the esophagus and put a kink in it. So have you ever felt like you've had a lump in your throat, you're trying to swallow food and it feels like it doesn't go down, you have a hard time swallowing capsules? So that can actually be because we got this tension pushing our stomach up, shortening the esophagus, so it'll create a kink, and that kink often happens in our throat area. So that in turn can then irritate the thyroid. So in younger people, again, it's going to create that rapid thyroid condition that's going to cause them to be extremely thin and lean. And then as we get older, this condition will cause our metabolism to slow down and we gain too much weight. the shallow breathing and lack of hydrochloric acid, that can cause a lot of infections in the body. So hydrochloric acid is supposed to be part of our immune system's line of defense. When we eat foods that have bacteria on them, infectious organisms, parasites, we need that really high hydrochloric acid to kill those and stop them from going into our intestines. But without that happening, we're going to be more prone to infections, including fungal infections. So if you're someone, you've got some fungal skin issues, you get chronic yeast infections, you've been told you have candida or an overabundance of yeast in your body, you really need to work on this and your digestion in order to overcome it. Otherwise, it's just going to keep coming back. So there's too much tension here. We're not digesting proteins or minerals. That's going to cause a weakened immune system. We're going to be more prone to autoimmune diseases, cancer, not absorbing minerals. We're going to have a weakened structural system. We're going to be more prone to arthritis, back pain, osteoporosis, and then also chronic respiratory conditions. Somebody with allergies or asthma, people come to me and they're like, what can I take for my lungs? And it's still like, we can't focus on the lungs first. We need to focus on the digestion and the intestinal tract, because that's where the majority of these problems start. Also, the glandular system's going to be weakened by this. Our adrenals, our thyroid, they need minerals. So those are going to be weakened. So in order to help them repair, we need to work on this. So a secondary problem that can happen is an inflamed ileocecal valve. Some of you may have heard of that, some of you may not. But if you are prone to gas and bloating, that can be a good sign that you have an inflamed ileocecal valve. So what happens is that these improperly digested proteins, so proteins are digested in the stomach, and then our starches are digested in the small intestines, because they're meant to be an alkaline condition, opposite of acidic. So these undigested proteins go into the small intestine, where they cause inflammation because they're not supposed to be there yet. They're not broken down. And this inflammation will actually inflame the ileocecal valve, which is the valve that stops the backup from the small intestine to the colon. So when it's inflamed, this valve stays open, and then bacteria from the large intestine backs up into the small intestine, causing this gas and bloating. It starts eating the sugars there, because the small intestine's breaking down the sugars and the starches. So this bacteria that shouldn't be there starts eating the sugars. We get gas and bloating, and then this causes this chronic inflammation, and our valve isn't shutting properly. So the analogy for thinking about the colon backing up into your small intestine would be like your sewer system overflowing into your kitchen. Not a great environment for cooking and eating food. So not everyone that has one problem will have the other, but they often do go together. So I would really recommend working on both. So we're going to find our ileocecal valve. So let me stand up. So if I can get back far enough, tilt the camera a little bit. So I like to put my left thumb in my belly button and my right thumb on the front of my hip bone. And then that halfway point between belly button and hip bone is about where your ileocecal valve is. So if you press in there, you might feel some tension, a little bit of pain, maybe a lot of pain. I've seen some people, this can be a really excruciating area for them if they've got a lot of inflammation there. So you want to actually press in there and do this for about 2 or 3 minutes. So focus on your deep breathing. You can do some circular massage in there. But what we're doing is we're working out that inflammation, and it takes a couple of minutes. So a good sign is actually when the pain goes away is when you're done for the day. But again, you're going to, this is a chronic condition. It's going to take a little while to resolve. So you're going to want to do it consistently for several days. I'm sorry, several weeks. All right. So now we're going to move on to fixing the hiatal hernia, which is one of the big causes of all of these problems. This is a mechanical problem, so it's not something that you can just take a pill for and expect it to go away. There are some supplements that can help and make it easier. There's some that can help it heal. We're going to talk about those in a minute. But you're going to need to do some actual physical work in some of these areas. So physical work and emotional work. So we got to address the cause. So some of the common causes of getting a hiatal hernia could be physical issues. We might have too much weight. A lot of women in their 8th to 9th month of pregnancy, because of the baby pushing on their stomach, they might develop this problem. Lifting heavy objects can do it. Constipation. So that is a whole nother class, talking about making sure that your intestines are moving. We want to be having 2 to 3 bowel movements a day. And if you're anything like me, when I first heard that, I was like, I have 2 to 3 a week. So that's all changed different, but if you have problems in that area, we should definitely talk about that. Also, frequent coughing can create some pressure and tension there. So those are some physical things that'll cause the hiatal hernia. But then there's a lot of emotional things. Stress is a big factor. A lot of times when we get angry, we kind of just swallow it, and then it sits down here in that solar plexus area. So we have undealt with emotions can cause a whole host of physical issues. So if you have some emotional issues, trauma, anger, you eat your feelings, those all need to be dealt with in order for the physical symptoms of them to go away. So, yes, thank you, Tiffany. The ileocecal valve is only found on the right side of your body. So that's one thing. I always demonstrate that, but then I forget to say that. So I need to put that in my notes, which is why I'm using notes. I've got some bullet points I'm teaching off of, because I start going and then I forget half of what I want to say. So, so if we could do some anger work, releasing some anger, that will often release enough tension for us to start working on doing some deep abdominal breathing. Other things that will cause issues there is not paying attention to our instincts, not paying attention to our guts. Did you know that the gut and the brain develop from the same tissue? So, and all day long they're sending these little messengers back and forth, but there are more nerves that send information from the intestines to the brain than there are from the brain going back to the intestines. So listening to our gut is huge. We already talked about the solar plexus. Just to re-go over that, that's the area, it's just under your sternum or breastbone, above the stomach. It's called our solar plexus. because if you think of the sun's rays radiating out, this is the energy center of our body, and there's networks of nerves that just radiate out to all of our body systems like the rays of the sun. So there's actually a lot of cultures that would learn to listen to their gut. You would get a knot there in that solar plexus warning you of danger. Soldiers have actually talked about coming back from war and saying, you know, I listened to my gut and it saved my life. So, but in Western society, we focus more on listening to our head, which, you know, there's a good balance to be found there, but we need to make sure, you know, if our brain is listening to our gut more than our gut listens to our brains, shouldn't that tell us a little something? And we also tell our children, you know, we teach them to follow their head, to think it through. You know, we always want to have the facts in front of us. Sometimes listening to our gut's the better way to go. More and more research is showing that we have a gut brain, that the gut has intelligence. All of the parts of our body are constantly thinking. So it's time that we start listening. So if we're about to do something harmful, whether it's eating something that's not good for us, or going into a situation that's not good for us, or starting a relationship or whatever, our solar plexus will tense up. It'll pull the stomach upward and against the diaphragm and cause that tension there. And when we ignore that, that tension stays, it remains, and we're just adding to it the more and more that we don't listen to it. So this constant not listening to our body is always talking to us. It's always, symptoms are just a way of your body telling you that something's wrong. The symptom in itself isn't bad. It's the only way the body has of talking to you. So we need to listen and realize when we have a symptom, something is wrong. It takes courage to follow your guts. Have you ever noticed that? That when, you know, somebody says, well, why did you go do that? Maybe you made a big purchase. Maybe you made a big life decision. And you said, I don't know, I just followed my gut. People are going to look at you weird. They're like, well, did you research it? Did you have all the facts? You know, we can't really give somebody a good reason why we followed our gut beyond that it was just an instinct. So if we can't argue it logically, we believe that it's silly. One example of listening to our guts that I experienced, I was working long distantly with a client, so I wasn't able to do some of my normal assessments that I would if they were here in person. I have a little handheld scanner I normally run my clients on. I can do physical muscle responsory testing. She lives in another state. So I knew we needed to work on digestion and the intestinal system, and recommended a probiotic for her that only had one strain. I started her on acidophilus. And normally if you came and you asked me what's a good probiotic, I would recommend one for you that had 11 different strains from Nature's Sunshine. But with her, I was like, you know, I just think that she needs just the acidophilus. So she started on that, was improving, doing really well. And then she bought this kit of products, and it came with the probiotic 11 in it. So I told her, I said, well, since you have it, go ahead and try just one capsule a day in addition to your acidophilus. And one capsule is a third dose. Normally you would take 3. She started having issues, and things weren't progressing as they should have been. So she asked me, because she's very curious about natural health, she said, how did you know to start me on the acidophilus when you're recommending that I start everyone else that I know on the probiotic 11? And I said it was just an instinct that I had. I can't explain it. I've got no rationale for it. I just listen to my gut. So you might find that your gut will save you if you start listening to it. All right, so everyone's still working on your breathing through the abdominals, keep the chest down and relax. So we're gonna start working on how do we correct this hiatal hernia. For one thing, if you've got a lot of tension there, it can be helpful to use some herbs that are natural relaxants. So there's a liquid lobelia or a liquid vervain, which they're both antispasmodics. They help relax muscle cramps and spasms. The vervain is a little less strong than the lobelia. And they're both really great for relaxing the nerves. So it's going to help calm the whole body by doing this. So you can take some of that to help relax some of this tension. You can work on your abdominal breathing while taking a really nice hot bath, maybe with some lavender essential oil. Then also work on massaging the abdomen here, right underneath your sternum, your rib cage. You can work all the way around this band here, working to relax that out, and then focus on that deep abdominal breathing. So the goal is we're trying to relax this area and help the stomach come down. So for some people, we've got to manually go in and do this from the outside. So, but some of the things you got to do before you can get this area to relax, especially if you're a more high-strung, tense person, is work on releasing some of that emotional tension. So some of the ways to do that is to actually, we want to let it out. We want to get rid of it. We might throw a little temper tantrum. So some of the good things to do is actually like make some fists, like you're going to fight somebody, and go, "Ugh." Try it. Just stand up, make some fists, go, "Ugh." See if you can let it out. So the more tense you are, the more you're probably going to laugh about that as you're doing it and not really let it get deep down from inside. It might come out your throat rather than coming from deep down. But actually working on being able to release your anger, throw a little temper tantrum, even stomp your feet like a little child. You know how kids throw the best tantrums? They yell, they scream, their whole body gets into it. Doing that, mimicking your children when they're throwing a fit, is one of the best ways to release this. And then think back to your childhood. Is the reason that you have some of this tension was because you were told to stop throwing tantrums as a child? So think about helping your kids release their frustration in a healthy way. You know, if a tantrum isn't acceptable for the living room, maybe you can take them into their bedroom and be like, yes, let's throw a fit, let's make some noise, let's stomp our feet, let's, like, let it out. Like, this is a good release. Otherwise, we're stuffing it down, we're keeping this tension in. So, letting some tension out, letting your body relax. Now we can actually manually go to work on a little bit more. I'm going to shift my camera down. Hopefully I can stand back far enough for you to see. So again, taking some lobelia before you do this can help relax this. So if you're going to have someone manually help you do this, which is one of the best ways, is to lie down on a table. And it's easier too if it's somebody you like, that you can pull your shirt up so that they can get to your stomach. But they're going to work their fingers up to the base of your rib cage and pull down. So you're laying on the table on your back, and they come up all the way up to the bottom of those ribs, and they're pulling down. You want to get some pressure in there. Don't do this right after you ate, but going in and having them pull down and work it down And you're going to have to do this several times and for a while. And you can actually focus on getting up underneath the ribs a little bit and pulling down. And then some abdominal massage. Have them apply pressure to your ileocecal valve, because they're going to have more leverage, and get some really good pressure going there. You can do the ileocecal valve yourself as well, but having somebody really help pulling down. Let's not neglect the valve of Houston, and that one's over in our colon. So we start at the belly button. We go 2 inches down, 1 inch to the left. So this is towards near the bottom of the colon. And if you press there, do you have any tenderness, pain, discomfort? That's showing there's more inflammation there. And again, we want to press and hold that. Might take a couple minutes, but when the pain is gone, that means we've worked out a lot of that inflammation there. So let's say you don't have somebody to manually help you with pulling down the hernia, or helping release that tension, and you need to do it yourself. There are a couple of ways that you can do this. Just remember as well, as we're doing this, we got to do it for a couple weeks, because we got to move the stomach out of the way, and then we need to allow that muscle, the diaphragm, to build up some tone there to help provide some pressure to keep the stomach down. So one of the best ways to do this manually is actually get a wall behind you so that you can lean backwards, and you're going to press down and in. So again, we're right underneath our sternum, and we want to take as much abdominally breath as we can. Breathe in and then out, and we're going to press down and lean forward. So, and our fingers are going down and in. So we lean back, we take a deep breath in, and as we blow it out, we press down and in and lean forward. So that's going to help manually push the stomach back down where it needs to go. So another thing that you can do while working on that to help the stomach drop down would be first thing in the morning. You're going to take 20 to 60 drops of that liquid lobelia that I keep talking about. It's a miracle worker. Honestly, you would want it on hand for nervous tension, muscle cramps, spasms. It's really great. So you're going to take about 20 to 60 drops of that, and then you're going to drink at least a quart of water. So at least 16 ounces of water on an empty stomach. So this one's first thing in the morning. We take our lobelia, we quickly drink 16 ounces of water, and then we're going to rise up onto our toes and drop down. So we want it to be a big jerk, because we're using the water that we just drank as weight in the stomach to help pull it down. So you might have to do that a couple times. So we go up onto the heels, drop down with a really nice thud. You can also do that after you drank the water. You can jump off of something small, like a step stool. You know, your front porch steps, there's probably only 3 or 4 of those. Give it a little more height, a little more force there for pulling that down. But again, working on that emotional aspect of it is just as important as anything that you're physically going to do. So we're wrapping it up. I'm just going to talk about a couple other supplements that could be helpful for helping your body heal from this. So red raspberry, that's an herb that can be really helpful for improving the muscle tone as you're working through this hiatal hernia. So it may help you correct the problem more quickly. You can take it in a capsule or a tea. If you prefer a tea, then the Nature Sunshine capsules, any of their herbs that come in a capsule, you just open up the capsule, put in your hot water, there's your tea. taking some mineral supplements. So they've got two great ones. One's called Ionic Minerals and one's Mineral Chi. So just knowing that the longer you've had this problem, the more deficient your body is in minerals. So these are two great liquids for helping to repair that mineral imbalance that you probably have. They're going to help with the healing process, and it's getting some more good stuff in. Two things that can help the ileocecal valve while you're correcting that problem. One's called Intestinal Soothe and Build. So that one's really helpful for helping to push some of that inflammation out of the bowels. Another good one's called Spleen Activator, or Slippery Elm is a single herb that's really soothing to the entire digestive tract. Can't say enough about that one. So thinking about the fact that our body is going to be deficient in stomach acid and food enzymes because of all of this. So if you have difficulty digesting any foods, I recommend doing some different food enzyme blends while you're working on this process, and maybe for a couple months afterwards. So if you're younger, say 30, 40 or younger, then Proactazyme is actually the name of the formula I'd recommend for you. And if you're older than 40, closer to 50 or older, then food enzymes is going to be of more help for you. It has betaine hydrochloride in it that's going to help provide that acidity for digesting the proteins. Let's say you've had chronic heartburn. As you're working on this problem, we're trying to get rid of the cause of the heartburn. Then taking the slippery elm in a little bit of aloe vera juice, that's going to help just soothe everything, make it relax, make it feel better. So, and maybe while we're working this out, you might need to sleep with your head and chest elevated a little bit, because if we've got that valve problem of it coming, the acid coming up from your stomach, but aloe is really going to help heal that acidity problem from all of that acid coming up. Help with correcting the emotional issues. Now, most of us can't correct emotional issues on our own, so you can see a therapist, work with friends and stuff, but there's actually something called flower essences that are really great at helping us deal with our emotional issues. They work on our emotions on a vibrational frequency level. So included at the list of the supplements towards the end, there's a link to a flower essence quiz. If you'd like to take it, find out which of the 6 flower essence formulas Nature Sunshine has is best for you. I have found that when working with my clients that have emotional issues, that they recover faster and that it's easier to stick with the changes that need to be made when they're taking a flower essence. So it's a really great tool, and tools are meant to be used. So you can take that quiz. Couple of single herbs that are really good. Chamomile is good for helping create a sunny, cheerful disposition. St. John's wort can actually help you get more in touch with your gut. Some adaptogenic herbs can be helpful. 2 single ones that are favorites are licorice root. So an adaptogenic herb means that it helps your body adapt and deal with stress in a healthy way. So licorice root's a great one. It's also really beneficial for healthy blood sugar levels. And then eleuthero root is good as well. So, and those that have, it's called a thyroid type body build. They might be really tall and abnormally thin. You generally have adrenal issues that go along with that as well. 2 of my favorite adrenal formulas, one is just called Adrenal Support, and then the other one is a Chinese formula called Nervous Fatigue. That one's one of my favorites. It actually helps, Chinese herbs help both the physical and the emotional aspects. So nervous fatigue can be really great for some of the key words for thinking about that is when you have just a burnt out feeling. You're just tired, stressed out, and burnt out. It's a really great formula. So, opening up your digestive tract, working on proper digestion, working on fixing intestinal problems. That's the most basic things that you can do to start recovering from chronic illnesses. So please share this information with anyone that you think could benefit from this. Whether, it's autoimmune, cancer, fibromyalgia, cardiovascular problems, lung problems, we have to fix the root cause. Everything else is just a patch. So if you'd like more help with your health problems and you live close to the state and Oregon area, you can make an appointment with me for a consultation. I do online bookings. You can message me through Facebook, or you can go to mytime.com/where to start to. I put the links in the comment, and I will repeat all of these links that I talked about a second time when I'm finished here. So if you'd like to work with me locally, also I do online long distance consultations. I've worked with a few clients that way. They're having some really good success. So just a question. If you enjoyed tonight's class, would you rather see these weekly, every other week, or once a month? Just want to know how often you want to hear from me. I'm going to do some short videos a little bit more often on maybe some singular herbs and products. But so this was about an hour tonight. How often would you watch some of these? And yeah, I didn't see that anyone had questions. Those might come up. I'm sure we'll have more people watching this as we go along. So even if you're watching this, a week after it's done, go ahead and put your questions in, and I'll check back on it occasionally and make sure that they get answered. So have a great night, everyone. I see somebody says weekly. All right, Monica, I will do my best.